Rusty stuff. As you can probably tell, I fucking love it. I'm not particularly into cars though, not while they're working anyway. But when they turn into rusty junk and become a testament to automotive decay, well, that gets me hornier than a hungry hooker.
You better pay me, Fixin. I ain't putting it on the tab this time.
If they rust in old car parts revs up all 324 of your engines too, jump in the passenger seat, strap on your seatbelts and get ready to ride. Because today we're going to take a rusty old Cadillac fog light and turn it into the sexiest, and most likely only, Cadillac desk lamp you've ever seen.
Restoration project.
There's no better feeling than taking an old artefact that was destined for the landfill and giving it a new lease of life. Like those antique death lamps I brought back from the Hubcap graveyard a few episodes ago. Link in the word hole below. Like Jack with a handful of magic beans, I returned home from that antiques fair with a haul of stuff so rusty and useless, even the world's worst scrapyard would have laughed at me in disgust. Included in that haul was this ancient piece of motoring memorabilia. I had no idea what the fuck it was. I mean, I knew it was a light from a car, but what car? Could have been a Morris Minor or a Maserati. To be honest, it could have been a fucking monster truck for all I knew. I needed more info. So, armed with nothing but curiosity and a wire brush, like a junkyard edition of Sherlock Holmes, I looked for some clues that might shed some light on the provenance of this luminaire. The manufacturer, bless their cryptic arts, had been kind enough to leave a trail of coded breadcrumbs to assist in the search. RH Fog. Simple enough, it's a right-handed fog light, I'm not that dumb. Then, there was Guide A557 and Made in the USA. That's all I had to work with. It's like a rusty treasure map minus the actual treasure. Using a search engine to search out the engine, I quickly found that this beauty wasn't just any fog light, but a fog light from a 57 Caddy, as the Americans call it. That means Cadillac if you've been living under a rock for the last 100 years. This artifact just went from junkyard reject to certified slice of Americana. Suddenly the fiver I paid was looking like the steal of the century. A quick search on eBay shows that just the glass is worth $50, but the whole assembly easily worth $100. Turns out the antiques fair haul really was the motoring equivalent of magic beans. After checking out some Cadillacs on the interwebs, I found the culprit, a 57 Caddy Fleetwood. It's a dead ringer to these bad boys underneath the bumper. Elementary, my dear Watson. Mystery solved. Okay, so I already got the worst of the rust off, but I was a bit too keen with the wire brush and left it with a few whoopsie scratches. I broke out my own bodged polishing wheel, slapped on a nylon fibre disc and gave the fog light a facial. Of the beautician kind, of course, this ain't OnlyFans for rust perverts. The pad was abrasive enough to buff out my over-enthusiastic previous handiwork, but soft enough to leave it with a toothpaste commercial level shine. The other parts were shined up using a variety of weird and wonderful rust exfoliation methods. I've cleaned up all the components of this mist illuminator, so let's see what we got. The fog light metal casing that holds it all together, the reflector with existing lamp holder terminals removed, rubber gasket and reflector screw, glass frame and 2 brackets. There's also a few screws that are currently getting de-rusted. Let's have a look at what other components we're going to work with in this box of magic to help turn this Cadillac crustacean into a functioning and probably dangerous desk lamp. Yep, those Armstrong Siddeley hubcaps weren't the only wheel decorations I got conned into buying. I also got this generic chrome wheel frisbee, complete with massive pre-made hole and absolutely zero identifying marks whatsoever. Is it valuable? Highly unlikely. But will it work as the base for the desk lamp? Well, again, highly unlikely, but we can give it a go. Like a chrome lighting equivalent of a transvestite, we got a male to female M10 threaded extender, 200mm long. This is called a brass hickey coupler. I'm not sure why they named it after a love bite, but apparently they did. A chrome 10mm bollock spliff, otherwise known as a ball joint. This little wizard is a G4 LED lamp. While G4 lamps are usually 12 volts, this little bastard can run on 230 volt AC without a transformer. If that ain't black magic, I don't know what is. And a G4 lamp holder to match, because every wizard needs a wand. What else we got in this box of tricks? Metal cable glands with cord grips. Once again, 10mm threaded. Yep, this desk lamp will be screwed in more ways than one. And lastly, a delightful smorgasbord of washers and nuts. Let's use this ball joint and threaded extender to get this Lampenstein started. After giving the non-binary extender a little stroke to make it feel appreciated, screw the ball joint onto one end and a brass love bite onto the other, using some hollow threaded rod. Then, stuff in some braided cable like you're threading a fallopian tube. Braided cable gives a nice vintage elegance to antique relics, without the vintage safety levels. It was a tight squeeze, but I managed to pull the cable through without completely f***ing it up. The fog light had 2 brackets riveted on. I'm going to use the bottom bracket to attach the ball joint, as it already has a nice convenient hole just aching to be filled. Maybe this is OnlyFans for rust perverts. We'll use one of the glands to attach it, so that we can route the cable out of the stand. Okay, time to have a look at the electrical part of this contraption. The G4 lamp holder fitted perfectly into the hole that I removed the original lamp holder from. This was less perfect planning and more lucky coincidence. The restoration gods are smiling upon me on this one. I shoved it in like I was stuffing a metal turkey, feeding the cables through the pre-existing holes. I slapped a couple of dollops of Sikaflex on the sides to keep it in place. I didn't have any hot snot laying around, but hey, you work with what you got. They don't call it a bodge for nothing. What's up next? I guess it's time we thought about cable entry into the fog light assembly. It's already got a hole bigger than a whore's fun cave, so let's try and utilise that. With a flat nut, 2 brass washers and the other threaded cable gland, I simultaneously blocked the hole and provided cable entry for the lamp holder. Bosh. Next up, reattaching the top bracket using rivets. How do I know which one's the top? Call it a hunch. I'll be using the Draper rivet tool for this part. Link in the word box below if you want to see the most professional tool review on YouTube. Let's stuff this cable into the fog light assembly. Just like threading a needle, except the needle hates ya and the thread is an uncooperative snake. After some highly technical pokey action, I wrangled the braided cable through the cable gland. To securely fit the fog light onto the bracket, I'm using M4 countersunk socket head screws with M4 nuts, because nothing says professional craftsmanship like over-engineering a desk lamp to be stronger than your ex-wife's grip on her industrial-sized tub of Prozac. It's actually starting to look like a lamp now, or at the very least something that could be mistaken for a lamp by someone with bad eyesight. Now that the Sikaflex holding the lamp holder in place is dry, I cut off the excess with a Stanley blade and cleaned it up, and chucked a couple of Wago levered connectors onto the cables. Wago levered connectors, the lazy man's screw terminals. Next, I stripped the braided cable's outer insulation to reveal the inner cores. It's like unwrapping a present, except the gift is wires and the stakes are electrocution. I taped up the end to keep the braided sheath from fraying and shoved the line and neutral conductors into the spare terminals on the Wagos. And now, time for a brief intermission while you click the like and subscribe buttons and watch a video of massive metal ducts getting zinc plated. Back to the fog lamp. Now let's talk about earthing. If you enjoy not pissing out lightning bolts, or remodelling your hair into the I just licked a power line style, earthing the light is essential. Ensuring all metal parts of the lamp are earthed could mean a difference between
"Ooh, fancy lamp"
and
"He was dead when I got here, officer."
There's a handy hole here which we're going to utilise for the earthing. So firstly, crimp a ring lug onto the earth wire of the braided cable. Make sure that the connection is tighter than a nun's snatch, as you don't want that earth cable coming loose. Then, throw another one of the M4 countersunk screws into the hole. Chuck the ring lug onto the other side and fasten it with a nut. It should look something like this when you're done. Time to get the reflector and lamp holder back into the assembly. This is attached using this bolt to screw into the threaded hole onto the reflector. Pretty simples. Now I know you're supposed to use a socket set for this, but I'm far too lazy to use the correct tools. So if you want to call me a massive cunt in the comments, feel free. Next, we turn to the star of the show, the $50 piece of glass. Let's give it a good clean so it doesn't feel left out of Lampenstein's shiny new look. Scrubbing this thick, chunky piece of glass really makes you think about the good old days, when stuff was built to last. This fog light is nearly 70 years old, and after some minor rust exfoliation, it looks fresher than a grandma who's just discovered Botox. It's a reminder of a time when manufacturers actually gave a shit about quality, unlike today's money-grabbing bastards who engineer your gadgets to self-destruct as soon as the warranty expires. The faster it breaks, the faster they can sell you a new one, right? Anyway, with the grime gone and the glass gleaming, I'll slap the final components of the fog light into place. Bloody hell, that was hectic. A piece of threaded rod, a nut and a couple of washers later, and we had the stand connected to the hubcap base. I've been donated a delightful box of vintage electrical bits and bobs by my neighbours, so I dug out a suitably vintage plug to attach onto the other end of the braided cable. A 3 amp fuse should be okay to protect the cable, which has a cross-sectional area of 0.75mm. The terminals on this plug are the old style where you twist the cable around the pin on the terminal. Not quite idiot proof, but this ain't my first rodeo. Okay, we finally got a desk lamp, albeit one that screams I was assembled by a sleep-deprived lunatic with access to rust removal gadgets. The brass and chrome combo give a classy contrast, or mismatched leftover component vibe. Pick whichever description works for you. Before we introduce Lampenstein to the electric grid, I should probably test this contraption to see how likely it is to turn me into a human circuit breaker. Let's do 2 tests. The first one will be earth continuity. Or, in English, checking the earth cable I installed earlier is connected to all parts of the light fitting. This means that if there's a fault, the electricity will go through the earth cable, as opposed to going through the U cable. It will also hopefully trip your RCD before turning you into a human flavoured toasted marshmallow. We want a reading as low as possible. 0 is best, but anything under about 0.065 should be safe enough not to kill me. Now we're looking at insulation resistance, between the line, neutral and earth. That's the brown, blue and green yellow cables for those who don't know their ohms from their amps. For this test, we want a reading as high as possible. This basically checks that the electricity ain't going to jump around from wire to wire like a game of electrical musical chairs. Yeah, I'd say 2000 megaohms should be safe enough to prevent my man cave from having to do its impression of a bonfire. Time to view finished Lampenstein in all its bodged together glory with some chilled music overlaid. Yo, say where you're from. We tell her England, now where you're going. We in a London, say where you're from. We tell her England, now where you're going. We in a London, cause say me London, me hop right up on the sugar. Say we are started with the foundation. Channel say building up a revolution. I say we going on in a Nevada, do not in a Kingston. I say me hop right up on the sugar. And we are started with the foundation. Channel say building up a revolution. I say we go on them a Nevada, do not in a Kingston. Well, I think we can all agree that the industrial steampunk vibe of this lamp, with its chrome and brass juxtapositioning and traceable provenance to a cornerstone of American automotive history, make this a must-have to any motoring enthusiast. Is it actually practical? Well, as you can see, the ball joint on the bracket allows the lamp to be angled either straight up or a few degrees lower than horizontal. So maybe not the most suitable desk lamp for reading your favourite user manual in your study. It definitely works as an item of decorative lamping though, or as a conversation piece in your bar/man cave, or even in a corner, angled up at the wall with some kind of motoring mood lighting. If you've made mad lamps out of mental motoring stuff, tell me in the comments below what's the weirdest thing you've made a lamp out of. Other than that, thanks for watching lovely people. If you found this mildly entertaining, light up that like button, de-rust the subscription button, share it with your favourite hungry hooker,
Alright, just give us a sandwich then.
and stay tuned for the next episode of Fixin' Rusty Stuff.
Restoration Project.